Hello friends, welcome to Eugene's English. Just a little while ago, I had a great conversation with an American friend of mine, Kelly Schwalbert, and we discussed the topic of homeschooling. This is a great material, great interview, great thing to use to improve your English, to improve your listening skills. So there you go. Okay, guys, today I'm with my friend Kelly Schwalbert.
Yes.
And today we're talking about homeschooling. I will just make a small kind of an introduction. I was talking to a student of mine just a couple of hours ago, and we were talking about education. All of a sudden, we started talking about homeschooling, and I realized, because I later on got online and found this article saying that here in Ukraine, at least it was last year, that we had more than 54,000 children be homeschooled, and I think that the number is now on the rise. So I decided to ask my friend Kelly, thank you very much and I really appreciate for saying yes to it, because Kelly is homeschooling her, how many? 3 children.
Yeah, I have 4 children, but 3 of school age.
Yeah. So I decided to ask her how this thing works in America, because I think that it may be one of the trends in the school education system here in Ukraine. So Kelly, how does it work in America? How do you do it? How do you organize homeschooling?
Well, that is a very broad question because every family is different. Just like in a traditional classroom, each teacher has their own style and methods of presenting information to the students. So a bit of my background. I grew up I went to a public education, and my children, before, we've been homeschooling 2 years now, so before then, they were in a mix of private and public schools. Um, I don't know if you guys have charter schools in Ukraine, but it was they're a specialized education. They're a very focused education school, and so they were in those. And then when we moved here to Maine, we started homeschooling because we didn't know anything about the schools here. And we have since learned they're not fantastic in our area, and so that's why we've continued. But if any parent knows homeschooling, if you've ever rushed to get your children out the door in the morning, with homeschooling, right, we all wander into the kitchen in our pajamas, and it's a very slow start to the morning. And that is what literally sold me on this, because I don't have to rush everybody to get out the door to school. It's great. It's a slow morning for us, so it works for our family. But how we organize it. So this is my 2nd year teaching my children, and I think just like school teachers, I have planning sessions where I am researching curriculum. I am researching how my child learns, what kind of teacher I am. We all have different ways we deliver information, and also, how kids receive information. So that's a big part of homeschooling, is knowing that. And then building an individual education for that child. Like if a child is very gifted in mathematics, then you would put them on a bit faster track, a higher level. And if they were struggling a little bit more with reading or writing, you could slow down and give them a little bit more attention in that area. So it's a very great way to customize an education that's something we don't usually figure out till adults, like, oh, I'm really good at this, so I should do this. We get the opportunity to do that at, elementary age students and beyond. So that's kind of the intro to homeschooling and organizing. Go ahead.
So by saying we, do you mean yourself, or who is we?
We would be me and my husband. So I do the majority of the planning because I'm teaching 99.9% of the time.
Oh, so you do the teaching.
Mm-hmm. I do the teaching.
Okay, because from what I read from this article about homeschooling in Ukraine, this is how it works. Most of the families hire tutors who either come to their homes, or the parents should take the children to the tutor's place to have classes. But I don't think that any of the parents would be doing the teaching themselves. You do the teaching.
I do the teaching, yeah. So it depends. There are cases where you would hire a tutor. More for us, it would be maybe language learning. If you're not a native speaker or you haven't learned that language, it is challenging to teach a child a language. And then also, I would say for music, if they want to learn an instrument or do some voice training, then we would hire a tutor. We also have what's called co-ops. So
okay. What is that?
My kids are part of a co-op, and they go once a week, and we have different parents that teach different subject matters. And it's also a time to get together with friends and other families that also homeschool. I think that's more traditional in America to have co-ops. That's a very common thing, is kind of to take on a group teaching. But I would say for our co-op, I mean, my kids do physical education, so they have gym class with our co-op. There's a writing one. There's a biology for, I have one of my kids. What? This is working at home and teaching your kids at home. They're always around. So you have to like your kids if you're going to homeschool.
Your students are always around you.
Yeah, exactly. No breaks there.
Listen, Kelly, how effective do you think this is? I mean, you don't have a formal education, a degree in this subject and that subject. How effective do you think this is?
I think it's extremely effective. So here in America, at least, we are required, well, it depends on your state. So each state handles education standards. And so our state is pretty strict, and we have to do certain testing every year. And traditionally, the homeschoolers students, because they're categorized outside of public school and private school students, they score much higher on the tests that they do every year. And that's pretty common. Now, as far as mastering subjects, we have curriculum that we use. And so, like this one, I'll show this one. So, just like a normal textbook that you would get, but it is written often to the students, to their perspective, and explains what they have to do. And then as the parent, you're just going over the material with them and making sure they comprehend it and answer any questions. So I would say you're more facilitating the education. There's some things that you're teaching. but it's more facilitation of the education. So it's not like university where you're a master in that subject and you're teaching them. You know, I say in most public schools, teachers might be proficient in a very specific subject, and then they're just facilitating the curriculum of the other subjects they have to teach in their classrooms.
Tell me a little bit more about facilitating. I mean, I think I like the idea that you are, you are facilitating, that you're teaching or you're pushing on your child whatever you think is best for them to learn. What does that mean, facilitating? So you have this curriculum, you go over this program. So how does that happen? Because they have to learn something themselves after that. Do you give them homework then?
No. So, which my kids love that they don't have homework anymore, but they are required to finish their work in my house. So if that takes them 30 minutes or 3 hours, that's up to them. They have to do their time management skills. So
right.
We pick the curriculum. So we have a lot of subjects. I was writing down my list when you sent me the questions of what we teach our kids. So we do math, and then we have language arts. So in America, language arts consists of a lot of different things. It's grammar, it's spelling, it's writing, reading, library skills, oral presentations. It just encompasses a lot. They've got social studies, which would be history and geography and culture. And then science, art and music, foreign language, physical education. My kids have Bible, and home education are life skills. So we've got a lot of subjects that we cover. We do some subjects every day, and other things are rotated throughout the week. I think typical to a traditional school. And then I kind of work through their schedule. And assign them, the different assignments from the curriculum. Most curriculums are built so that they have assignments each day. So it's like day 1 to day whatever. Here's what you need to get done that day in this subject. So that's how the curriculum is built. Most of them are very parent friendly. And so you're just making sure your kid understands the information that's being presented. And then they usually have a teacher's manual, so you can ask questions, or there's prompted questions. So you don't have to master the subject, but yes, we do have a general overview. And then of course we're always learning with them, because especially in like history, or like, oh, I didn't remember that from school. So there's a lot of that. So that's kind of the facilitation. You're just helping them go through the curriculum. Now, that's my method of homeschooling. There's people who are in what's co-ops, and they go every single day. Their kids are with another adult every single day. And it's maybe not for the 7 or 8 hours that traditional schools are. They might be 3 or 4 hours. And then you have people who do what's called unschooling. Which is another form, and it's where the child gets to choose the subjects they're interested in. And the parent provides them with information or curriculum based on their interests. So I am not an unschooler. I'm pretty traditional with subjects, and we have state requirements. Our government tells us, here's what your kids must learn. I don't know if Ukraine has those regulations for homeschooling, but here in America we do. And so depending on where you live, you have certain requirements. So our state has requirements that I have to meet.
I wanted to ask you about the curriculum. So there's somebody like I don't know, like a government educational body or whatever you call it, that work on and develop these curriculums. And so, and you said there are different curriculums. So how do you decide?
Yeah, so good question. That the government regulates what you must teach your children. So they tell us that we must teach math, we must teach history, we must teach language arts. You know, they have their list of requirements. We are given as parents the choice to choose which textbooks or curriculum we use to present that subject matter to our kids. Now, there are thousands upon thousands of YouTube videos that parents could watch for curriculum. There's whole channels of people that do curriculum reviews. There's whole blogs and websites devoted to curriculum reviews. It's a little overwhelming. So you kind of just go again with what your children like to do and what you as a parent can handle. Like, I'm not really artsy and crafty. And so any curriculum that's going to involve a lot of cutting and pasting things and coloring things is just automatically cut off in my book, because that would drive me crazy. But I'm like, no, we're not doing that. So that just but we get the freedom, at least for us, to choose. So, like, I'll turn around here and, what did I do? There we go. I'll show you a little bit here. So this is what my kids do. So this is the curriculum shelf, and they're basically, you pick, and it's workbook style. So they have that's kind of what it does. A lot of these are workbooks. Depending, for math, that's just easy because then I'm not trying to do lesson plans. So we get the variety. You can choose whatever you want to do for curriculum.
What about the testing systems, the exams? Tell me about that.
So most curriculums have built-in reviews. So as your student masters certain topics or subject matter, they would have in the textbook, there would be some kind of a quiz that your student would take. And then you could evaluate, do you need to work more on a certain area or not? Now, our government, and this is for America, this is at our country level, not just state level. They require testing at certain grades. And in our state, we require testing every single year because they want to make sure that students are progressing. And, as parents, you are doing your job as their teacher. That's kind of how the government regulates it. For my state, we have to do testing. And so they take a state test. At home or online. Yeah, so the testing materials come to your house, or you can do it online, and then you send it back to them, and then they send you the results of the test of how your kids did.
How is it regulated? I mean, how do you know? Okay, now, go ahead.
Well, then once you get the results of the test, you have to send them, at least in my area where we live, you have to send them to whoever is the district educator, superintendent for your area. So whatever public institution, school institution, we have to report to them the results of the test. So they can see, okay, the student is progressing. Like last year they were in grade 2. Okay, now they are testing in grade 3 or grade 4. We can see improvement. Like they're learning information and there's improvement in their test. So the government school, the main schools, at least in our area, they are the ones that verify your test and make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But Again, we pick all the curriculum. We have certain subjects we have to teach, but how they're taught is up to the parents. If you want to teach your kid simply through using YouTube videos or free online sources, you can do that. You don't have to buy textbooks. I choose to do textbooks because my kids are elementary aged and it's a bit more concrete for them to learn. But yeah, the how is up to the parent, but there are regulations that we must follow.
How long are you? So now your kid, what grades are they in? You said they were in elementary. What grades are they in?
I have first grade, second grade, and fifth grade.
Okay, first grader, second grader, fifth grader.
Mm-hmm.
Your fifth grader is your oldest daughter.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And it's been her second year too. How long are you planning to do this? Are you going to do this entire, elementary, middle, high school?
I don't know. I think for our family, there are some people that are like, we will homeschool all through high school. I think for us, it's a year by year because sometimes life changes. Like if I, had to go work out of the home, then what? So, life changes. So for us, it is a year by year where my husband and I evaluate if we, is it working still?
Okay.
I don't have anything against public school. Some people feel very strongly. I mean, I was public school educated. My kids were in there beforehand. And I think it just depends on what you want from a school system. This is a school system. This is just a different school system that works for us right now. Next year, we plan on homeschooling. I'm already evaluating curriculum and deciding what we're going to use in the fall. And, what worked this year, what didn't work this year, what my kids hated, what I hated, what we all liked. Goes both ways.
Family evaluation.
Yes, it is. Yeah, just like year-end student evaluations, we do that. I don't think all families do that, but we do it since we're teaching. And but we.
Do you ask do you ask your children's students questions like, so what do you think about your teacher? How would you evaluate her?
No.
I'm just kidding.
Those answers would vary depending on the day. She's awful, or she makes us do so much. Yeah, it depends on the day. Sometimes they have very strong opinions about their teacher. We have in our state, we have a certain number of days we have to educate. So we have to do 175 days of education. We don't have an hour requirement.
175.
Our state does not have an hour requirement. So if you do school in 30 minutes or an hour, you could technically count that.
Mm-hmm.
If it takes you 5 or 6 hours to do school, there's no, at least where I live, there's no limitations on hours. Some places you have to do like 3 or 4 hours a day for school, but it's not where I live. It depends on where you live.
So how long do you do? I mean, how many hours of school do you have every day in your family?
My younger elementary, so first and second graders, do about 3 hours a day of school. But that's not breaks. That's going immediately from one subject to the next. My fifth grader is about 4 to 5, depending on how into doing her schoolwork she is. Sometimes she'll fly through it, but then she also has a lot heavier workload than the younger elementary. So she's doing a little bit more advanced.
So can you describe a regular class?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, what time do you begin?
We start at 8:30 in the morning.
8:30 in the morning.
Yep.
Is there a bell?
Well, I'm hollering at them to get downstairs and get breakfast. I don't want to waste my whole day sitting at the kitchen table. So
Exactly.
I have things I must get done. I have chores to get done. I have work to get done, meals to make. And so I'm a scheduled person. That's just my personality. And that reflects in how we school. So some people don't, start school. Maybe they do school in the afternoons, or they don't really care when their kids start school. But I am like 8:30. We're starting school. That way, by around the lunch hour, we're close to, if not done, with our school day.
So for you, I mean, how much is it?
Well, so in America, there's tools there's websites that you can use. Your schooling could be completely free.
Okay.
Now I buy workbooks and make that investment, and I would say that on average for all of our subjects and all three of my kids combined, we spend about $600 per year for 3 children. So $200 per year per kid. So, but that's
$600 per year.
yeah. So $200 per child per year for the materials. Now, that's not tutoring. That's me facilitating their learning and working with the workbooks with them. So it's a little bit different, but you can spend a lot more. I mean, I know families that spend a few $1,000s on their curriculum.
You can always spend
You
more.
can always spend more. Yeah, that's true. I don't want to do that, so I'm pretty. I watch sales when homeschool curriculum companies go on sales. Then I will purchase, what I need when it goes on sale to save me a few dollars. But homeschooling doesn't have to be expensive.
Listen, do you think, maybe I will ask this last question. Do you think what you're doing is worth the effort, worth your nervous system, your health, the buck? Do you think it's worth it?
I think it's worth it. My husband and I had this conversation to your question. We were talking about the social interactions between our children. And she had just did her first year of homeschooling with her son and daughter. And she said, the social interaction with my kids is they actually know each other and they're kind to each other and they work together. She said, before this, our kids didn't know each other. They got up together in the same house, had breakfast together. They went to a school for 7 or 8 hours. They had after school activities, and then they had homework, and they would see each other at dinner time and maybe on the weekends. They did not have a relationship as a family. And we were discussing, my husband and I, about this because it seems to be something very similar with my kids. So I think for our family life, this has been a really good choice.
Kelly, thank you very much.
You're welcome.